Yo guys, what's up? Max here, Diablo 4 video, and today we're going over my endgame pulverized druid build. Now this is the build that I started at level 1. I've now gotten to, well, I'm level 95 now, not quite 100, but I know a lot of people are asking for this guide. Now I'm doing pulverize a bit differently. I am using poison creeper, I am using blood howl. I want to talk about the decision that I've made to play pulverize a little bit differently than I think is normal, and why the way that I'm doing it is so strong. We are adding more uniques into this endgame version. This is an endgame build, so I'm not only using the Insatiable Fury, but I'm using the new Godslayer crown as my helmet, plus the new Banished Lord's talisman. So there are a lot more uniques here, but I wanted to show you this setup because Pulverize is usually a build that you like play for a bit and then swap to something better. I really do think that you can use Pulverize all the way through, and in the gameplay that you're seeing, I actually only have 2 of my glyphs to level 15. Everything else is level 1, so I've got so much room for damage and survivability increases. I just haven't really been doing much nightmare dungeons this season, so all of my glyphs are unleveled, and that's why if you wanted to take this build to the absolute limit, I think you could. I personally will be trying other things now that I've got some more uniques to mess around with, because I know you guys want to see other guides besides just Pulverize. But yeah, guys, this is the build. Let's get right into it. So to start, we're going to be going over my gear. I'm going to talk about what you should be looking for your gear if you don't have some of the uniques that I'm using, and we're going to talk about like the must-have aspects, because there are currently a bunch of different ways to play Pulverize. I am right now using the Godslayer's Crown. This drops from Uber Duril. It rolls with damage increase, crowd control duration increase, max life and cooldown reduction, which is amazing. And it reads, when you stun, freeze, immobilize an elite enemy, or damage a boss, you're going to deal 57% increased damage for 3 seconds. And this effect can only occur once every 12 seconds. This is a really big bonus for not only our like single target damage, but also our boss damage, which Pulverize obviously struggles with. The other option here is to use a Vasili's Prayer if you'd like. Vasili's is a bit of a different Pulverize build where you fully spec into like the Earth side and go for Earth and Bulwark, and you go for Earth Spike. And that version of Pulverize is very nice. I don't think it does as much damage, but it is a little bit more survivable, or it should be a bit more survivable than my setup here, but it certainly will not deal as much damage. The next thing that we're using is the Insatiable Fury. This just got buffed. It's got a ton of overpower damage, physical damage, armor while in werebear form, and damage reduction while fortified, plus 3 ranks to all of our werebear skills. I think this is now a must-have or a must-wear for the Pulverize build, just because it gives us so much damage, especially those plus ranks is really nice. And if you don't have a Godslayer or you don't have an Insatiable Fury, you're just looking for as much DR as you can get here. Cooldown, max life is all really nice. The more max life you can pump into this build, the more damage your Pulverizes are going to get, because that is now a larger part of the Pulverize or the overpowered damage formula. Next up on your gloves. Now my gloves are kind of crappy. What you're looking here for is #1 priority is ranks of Pulverize. #2 is crit chance. #3 is either overpower damage or earth skill crit. Those are like the top 4 that you're looking for here. You're just looking for as much damage on your gloves as you can possibly get. On my pants, very different story, looking for as much defense as you can get. We've got armor while in werebear form, damage reduction from close enemies, damage reduction from distant, damage reduction while fortified, and a disobedience aspect. These actually dropped for me like this. I haven't added an aspect to them. I haven't re-rolled any of the stats. These was a crazy drop. So those were really, really nice. Just a ton of defense for us. And then on your boots, you're looking mainly for movement speed, spirit cost, are like the 2 biggest things. Boot slots are a really good place to fill in any resistances that you're missing. So you could go movement speed, spirit cost, and then double resistances would be really, really nice here. For the weapon, what you're looking for, in my opinion, is a staff. Obviously, if you get a really great axe or a really great mace, use it. However, the Earth and Devastation Paragon node was changed to get a multiplier off of our damage to crowd controlled. This does not work for damage to slowed. It does not work for damage to immobilized. It doesn't work for damage to stunned. It has to read exactly damage to crowd controlled enemies. And because that staffs come with the implicit damage to crowd controlled enemies, we can turn an additive damage increase into a multiplicative one. So if we come over here to Earth and Devastation, your Earth skills deal 10% increased crit damage, increased by 20% of your damage versus crowd controlled, a bonus up to 40%. I'm getting an additional 29% bonus. Obviously, I'm trying to get more. However, This is what I have right now, and that staff is contributing a lot to that multiplicative damage increase. If I wasn't wearing that staff, this would be a lot lower. So very nice there. For our amulet slot, we're using the Banished Lord's Talisman. Now, this, in my opinion, isn't a must-have. If you want to use an amulet and you get one with like spirit cost, ranks to crushing earth, and then you put a max roll like damage with your core skills while fortified, that's going to do really, really well for you. Putting this on, I probably noticed about a 25% damage increase, which was really nice, but it's not a must have. One of the really great things about this amulet is it rolls with crit chance. Crit with this is going to be really, really important because the big thing that this amulet does is our overpowers that do critically strike get at the moment, I've got 116% multiplicative increased damage for them, which is really, really nice. And so that makes making crit chance even more important on this build. We've got over 50% crit chance. So a lot of our overpowers are achieving that overpower crit, that orange number. And those are where you're going to see your biggest numbers, and you're going to see even bigger numbers with this amulet. Plus it rolls with +2 ranks of core skills. So another like flat 20% for pulverize, which is really nice. Then we get into our rings. By the way, for your like gems on your rings, you're just looking to fill out whatever resistances you're lacking. But on our rings, I've got crit chance. Crit chance and max life are like the two most important things. Crit chance, max life, those are the two most important things you're looking for on your ring. The rest is just damage increases. Obviously, damage to crowd controlled is going to be really nice. I've got vulnerable and crit and crit and crit, which are all really good for me. But if you can get even more damage to crowd control, that's going to be really nice. But crit chance and max life are the most important there. For our spirit bones, we're going to be taking wariness, reduce damage from elites, scythe talons for more increased crit chance. Once again, when we do hit those crits, they're massive numbers. Iron feather for more max life. This is additive crit damage. Just don't really need it. The more max life we can stack, the better. I'm currently at 17,000 max life, which is great. We're like almost at 18,000. Pack leader I like using because of poison creeper, which I'll explain the whole poison creeper blood howl because I know that looks weird once we get into our skill tree. And then lastly, obsidian slam. Every 20th kill causes your next earth skill to overpower. This is really, really, really nice, and our biggest source of repeated overpowers when we're mobbing. Lastly, on our rings, I'm using the after you hit 15 enemies with your werebear skills. Your next werebear skill will deal 48% more damage and stun enemies for 2 seconds. This is really fantastic. You're hitting multiple enemies all the time, especially with the density increases. These are going to give us a free stun, which we've got all this damage to crowd control. If you're not wearing something like this, or you're not wearing an earth skill slow, then you're not going to be getting a lot of your damage. This is very, very consistent damage uptime for our pulverizes, especially with the pulverized shockwave aspect. And then we're also using the core skills, deal increased damage based on your amount of fortify. I am not using an umbral ring, and I'm getting away with not using an umbral ring because of blood howl. This allows us to slot more damage on our gear, and I'm not having any issues with like mana or like spirit sustain, which is really, really nice. For our vampiric powers, I'm using blood boil. Every 20 seconds, our next skill overpowers. Plus, we get all these like physical explosion drops all the time whenever we do overpower. Just nice little damage to have. Mainly here for the guaranteed overpowers. We've got domination. Now, domination is awesome. It's going to give us 24% increased damage to enemies who are stunned, immobilized, frozen, or feared. We just would not be able to take advantage of this domination glyph if we weren't using the werebear stuns. This gives us free werebear stuns, and we wouldn't really be able to use it if we weren't using poison creeper. Poison creeper with this setup is giving us a ton of extra damage because it's also an immobilize, and it's going to give us envenom, which we'll talk about more in a second. But domination, really good for us. Undying, every time we cast a skill, we get 3% of our life back. This keeps us healthy all the time. When you're doing overpowers, you want to be healthy. This is the best healing source. Hemomancy is also really good. You could use that as well. However, you can just basic attack into the air and heal yourself with this. It just makes sure that we're always healthy and always getting our full overpowered damage increases. The anticipation I'm using because it's giving us ultimate cooldown. Not only is ultimate cooldown good because we get to go into Grizzly Rage, but it's also good because it's one of our 2 sources of unstoppable, and we don't want to be CC'd very much. And so I'm not popping Grizzly Rage on this build as soon as it's available. I'm usually waiting until there's an elite or I get CC'd, then I go into Grizzly Rage, I get a free debilitating roar cast with Grizzly Rage, and then I go right back into it. For our skill tree, we're using Storm Strike. Now, The other way of playing like a pulverized druid is to use Earth Spike. Earth Spike does not have a guaranteed vulnerable, and so one of the things that can be tough on like a Vasili's Prayer pulverized druid is uptime on vulnerable, which was changed. However, it's still a 20% damage increase, multiplicative. Plus, we've got other vulnerable damage increases, and being able to constantly swipe enemies, not only the 15% damage reduction, but also to make sure that enemies are vulnerable all the time is a massive damage increase for us. On top of that, we're going down to our Pulverize. Pulverize is going to reduce enemies' damage. You could go the stun here. I think the reduced damage is better. Once again, we need to be healthy. We need to be at full health to deal the most damage. So enemies doing less gives us, technically translates to a lot of damage. Wild Impulses for our core skills to deal increased damage. I've got more crit chance. If you wanted to like be a little bit more survivable, you could put more points into Iron Fur. I've just got one here for a little bit more damage reduction. Then we get down to our skills. Now, I'm using Blood Howl because it's going to give us a heal, an instantaneous heal. It kills reduced its cooldown by 1 second. When we are pulverizing into a crowd of enemies, this is just instantly getting back. So it's a really good source of spirit. It's a really good source of healing. I am not putting any points into Debilitating Roar because we don't need the things that Debilitating Roar gives us. We don't need more Fortified. Trust me, we have a ton of Fortified. We don't need more healing. And when I go into Grizzly Rage, I get a free proc of Debilitating Roar, which reduces enemies' damage for 70% for 4 seconds. This is crazy. This is why I save Grizzly Rage for elites, because I can just basically make sure that they don't deal any damage and I can kill them before this runs out. And I don't need to put points into here to get what I'm really looking for out of Debilitating Roar. Then we're going down to Poison Creeper. Poison Creeper is an immobilize. Anything that's Poison Creepered, we're going to get 24% damage against their them being immobilized. I've got a 20% crit chance increase, and I'm also grabbing Envenom for a 30% crit damage increase. That's part of the reason why I'm not playing this build as a perma Grizzly Rage, because I want to be able to cast Blood Howl. I want those spirits. I want that healing. I want Poison Creeper. I want that crit chance. I want that damage increase against Immobilize. I want my Envenom. And that's why I'm not setting up this build as a like perma Grizzly Rage build. And the crit stacking and that just didn't feel very good to me. I tried it. I just don't think it's worth. Then we've got Trample. Once again, we don't need the Fortify. We've got so much Fortify on this build. Casting Trample gives us 40 Spirit. We're going down to Envenom for the multiplicative damage increase with our crits. Then we've got Crushing Earth to deal more damage to those slowed, stunned, immobilized, or knocked back. Stone Guard, more damage when we're fortified, and just 1 point in Safeguard. It seems to be quite enough for our fortify purposes. And then we've got Defiance. Our Nature Magic skills deal more damage to elites. Natural Disaster, more damage to vulnerable, which we've got almost 100% uptime because we've got Storm Strikes, and we've also got our vulnerable exploit glyph. And then Resonance, we don't get to take advantage of. You just don't get this triple bonus if you are not using Storm Strike. Oh, I somehow had an extra point there. Interesting. Well, now we have 2 points into Iron Fur. I don't know where that point came from. Nice. Even more survivability. But you just don't get to take advantage of Resonance when you are using a Earth Spike version of this build. And so the kind of rotation for the skills, for those of you wondering, the rotation that you're going to want to do is usually you pop our Blood Howl. Blood Howl is going to give us our heal. It's going to make sure that our spirit's full. Then you're going to Poison Creeper and then swipe. When you Poison Creeper, you're giving them the poison damage. When you swipe, we're making sure that our part of our Resonance is going to be active. And then I usually Pulverize, dash into them, pop into our Grizzly, and then Pulverize again. And that's kind of the rotation for the damage, for like the biggest damage increase. And remember that because we've got Pulverize set up, whenever we're healthy for 12 seconds, we get the guaranteed overpower. So when you walk into a boss fight, you want to do this rotation because you will get your guaranteed overpower, and you can get the most damage at the very beginning of the fight. Not only that, but you'll also have Godslayer proc for that 57% damage increase. For the rest of the skill tree, we basically are going quick shift. We get that quick shift. Part of the reason that we're not doing the Vasili's is because we can quick shift. So now, because I casted my Storm Strike, it means I have to be in a human form. And then when I Pulverize, I have to go into Bear, which guarantees another 15% multiplier for that Pulverize, which is guaranteed to overpower. I play this build a bit like a fighting game where I'm setting up all of my damage in my big combo and then boom, Pulverize, big damage. Grizzly Rage, and then Ursine Strength for that increased damage while healthy and increased overpower damage. For my Paragon board, I will have the full planner linked. I apologize about the like confusion / the frustration with the last build planner, just like not working. We're like doing a lot of tweaking on the website. But when I say that my board is scuffed, I mean it. I literally do not have a glyph here because I do not have a glyph that I can fit in that isn't level 1. Like there's so much more damage that you could grab with this build. I have Dominate Socket, that's level 15. I have Exploit, that's level 15. I have Undaunted, that's 15. And then my next highest right now is Outmatch at 6, and then everything else is level 1. So I just don't have my glyphs like really in a good spot right now because I haven't been doing many Nightmare Dungeons. But the full build planner will be on the website. I do want to explain one thing that I'm doing here, which I really think is a good practice, and that is dipping our toes into a good Paragon board to grab everything that is needed and skip out all the BS. In the like leveling / like mid-game version, I was using Ancestral Guidance as our first board. Ancestral Guidance is arguably one of the most important boards for an overpowered druid. However, all of the stuff in the middle is garbage and you don't want it. If we use this as a starting board or as a top board, you basically have to go through it and then you pick up things that are not optimal. The way that I have my Paragon board set up, and once again, I'm not fully set up. I will have like the full version on DPS check, but the way that I have it set up is I'm going from the Earth and Devastation board up into the Survival Instincts board, and then into the Constricting Tendrils, and then I'm dipping into the Ancestral Guidance board. This allows me to get the damage increase after spending Spirit, that 30% increase, getting all our Spirit back on kill, skipping all the stuff in the middle, and then grabbing all of these core skill damage increases, which are really nice. I also popped in to grab a little bit more resistances for us, but then I can skip all the stuff in the middle and grab all the important things. The board on DPS check, which should be showing on screen right now, is as min-maxed as I possibly could get the board, so that is the endgame version, but I would still recommend like my leveling version till 75, just because it grabs all the important things first, and then this is the version once you have glyphs leveled that becomes really, really good. Guys, that is going to do it for the video. I hope you enjoyed. I will catch y'all in the next one. In terms of my plans for like build videos, I did get the X-Files Corroded Signet, so we are going to be trying out a dot build on Druid. I still haven't found a Tempest Roar. I now have a Uber Unique in my possession before I got a Tempest Roar, which I think is a bit of an issue for how rare that freaking Unique is. But I will have, I'm planning on working on a Poison Druid. I'm working on a Crone Staff Druid next. And I also will have the like Fire Wizard Hydra Flame Wall build that is going to be coming up next. That's the character that I'm going to start after I'm done with our Druid. So yeah, I hope you guys enjoyed the video. I'll catch y'all in the next one. Take care. Peace.